Hey, welcome everybody. This is the special edition of Bookish, our virtual program on authors, thinkers, and the literary life produced by the Southern California News Group and the Bay Area News Group. On today's show, we're going to be saluting 10 noteworthy authors of 2021. I'm really excited about that. Hi, I'm Sam Dunn. I'm the senior editor of premium content here at SCNG and a book nerd and an author myself. Anyway, I was just saying hi. To the Reader Reward subscribers and to all of you who've made our virtual programs such a success. And by the way, if you are a Reader Reward subscriber attending tonight, you're going to automatically be entered to win one of these fantastic prizes, the Amazon Kindle, a $100 e-gift card to our partner and one of our favorite independent bookstores in Southern California, Once Upon a Time. Or we're also giving away some signed copies from our noteworthy authors. So check that out. And if you're not a subscriber yet, why not? Go to scng.com/subscribe, find your local paper, and join us for the party. Anyway, now it's my pleasure to introduce my co-host for tonight. She's a writer, performer, and radio commentator. You probably know her work from NPR's Morning Edition and This American Life. She's a contributing editor for The Atlantic, and she's the host of the syndicated Radio Minute, or actually she's the producer of the Radio Minute, The Lowdown on Science, the author of many books, including her most recent, The Mad Woman and the Roomba, beaming to us from her usual bohemian splendor in beautiful Pasadena, Sandra Singlo. Hello, my dear.
Hello, my dear, with my oddly gothic lighting, as happens in this time of day. Well, it's so exciting to be here for this debut edition of Noteworthy, which is coming right out of here. So impressed to get this. It's Premium, the new bi-monthly magazine, I should say, that comes in Sunday, that you are editing. So congratulations, Samantha. That's
thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And these are noteworthy books. So let me kick this off by asking you, what do y'all mean by noteworthy books?
Okay, fair enough. Well, listen, first I have to say, we don't think that best of lists tell the whole story. You know, at least when it comes to books, you read what you read, you like what you like, and God bless you, that's it. But at the same time, every year there are certain books and certain authors that really strike a chord with readers and make an impact in culture at large. So to that end, SCNG launched Noteworthy, which is our salute, as selected by our authors at the Southern California News Group, to Southern California authors and California authors in general, whose books in the past year did a few things. They shaped conversation, they garnered substantial attention from critics and from readers alike, and they made powerful statements and delivered compelling reading experiences. This is not like, you know, taking your medicine. These were amazing reading experiences, and they influenced not just people in the region, but they reached far beyond into the nation and sometimes into you know, an international influence. You know, it was amazing because for me, in a time of so much isolation, these books enlightened us, they entertained us, and they helped us make us feel connected. So for that, we celebrate them.
Yes, and speaking of connection, and again, I have to say, it's kind of surreal to think that we've been doing Bookish almost 2 years.
I know, right?
Something that started in the pandemic, and the fun of it is actually meeting authors in their homes and having them speak directly to us, which we'll see in this hour. However, we also have live with us today, SCNG entertainment editor, Eric Peterson. He is with us, and we're going to hear him from a moment. I just want to say, you'll see by a change of outfits, it is a pre-tape that he did a couple days earlier this week when, as he said, he was wearing a jacket. So you'll see that, but he will be with us live in this hour in the chat, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But here to give us a kind of behind the scenes sneak peek at what you editors go through choosing these noteworthy books, here's Eric.
Wait, was he wearing pants? Anyhow.
Eric, can you tell us what went into choosing the noteworthy authors and books in the recent bookish edition of the Southern California News Group's premium?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sandra. So all year round, we are looking at the best books by Southern California authors. And it's who we focus on. Oftentimes, these authors are not we wouldn't call them local in the sense to reduce them, but that here's where they start, or here's where they work, or here's, this place is important to them. And that spreads out far and wide. And so, you can end up writing a book that touches on Haiti or France and still have a strong presence here. So all year round, we're looking for that in our normal coverage. We are finding great authors to talk to and books to write about. So we got our list. That was our start. That was our rough list. And then we worked and picked out the 10 that we felt were really noteworthy. And that's who we're talking about today.
Yeah, and although they're in Southern California writers, it really sparked a national conversation. Pretty
Absolutely.
much all 10 was what you're saying, I would say.
I think that's true. Yeah, I think that all of them, their work touched way beyond our local area, but we're very proud of them, and we think these are great books, and we are happy and honored to be able to celebrate them. And
well, they're great books, but yeah, it's not an eat your vegetables kind of list of like, these are good for you, read them. They're also enjoyable to read, right, Eric?
Absolutely. These are books that I think you could take anyone off the stack of 10 and hand it to somebody that you love and say, here, I love you. And they'll know it because they're great books. They're really, they're rich, they're exciting, they've got great stories, they're well written. They really are books, and many of them I read almost a year ago and I still think about. They're really great books. So they're for everyone to enjoy. That's what they're there for.
And what can readers expect who are subscribers to the Southern California News Group or readers of, what can they expect in books coverage going forward? It seems like there's so much great book coverage going on in your newspapers and new things that are happening and ongoing.
Thank you. Yeah, we are expanding. We have been expanding our coverage. So we doubled the amount of coverage. That's my dog. She agrees. And we do more stories. We talk to more authors. We get more books in front of our readers. And even, in the last couple of weeks, we've done more. And I will just also pause and say, this Bookish webinar, that is one example of where you can, hear directly from the authors that you care about and meet some that you didn't know that you would like. That's part of what we're doing. And one of the things we just launched is the book pages. It's a newsletter. It comes out. It's free to subscribers. It's free to anybody. And it's got Q&As with writers. It's got content that we don't put in the paper. This week, I went to the Huntington Library and I saw their new mapping fiction exhibit. I also was able to talk to the curator and find out more and learn more about their James Joyce event that they're having. There's links to that. There's information. We've got plenty and we want to bring it all to you, and we want it to all be good stuff.
Good stuff. And also the conversation is what's so lively. I thank you for mentioning Bookish, because the conversations we've had in the chats have been incredible. These readers are so smart and so thoughtful. And the fun of this hour is you're going to be live in the chat. So as we're looking at these books and authors and meeting them, you'll be in the chat. And so people can have a little conversation about what they're seeing, and you'll be right in the room with them. Right, Eric?
Absolutely. I will be in the room, so please remember that when you say mean things about me. I will get it directly. That's just fine. And I will be there. I love the show. I love listening, and I sometimes will, interact if people have questions. I also share links to the stories that we've done on many of these authors, and I'll provide links to the newsletter if you want to sign up for that, and plenty of other stuff. So I'm there if you got a question.
Fantastic. With that, let's go to the show. We remind you, this is not some passive Zoom experience. We are live. SCNG Entertainment editor Eric Peterson is in the Zoom right now. I already asked him what he was wearing. I know it's a family show, but I hope it's pajamas. So, and that's, as I said, part of the conversation we value with you as we talk about books.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't know about the pants. But anyway, let us turn our attention to the reason we are here, the 10 noteworthy authors and their books. Anyway, okay. So talking about Southern Californians whose work resonated across the nation and across the world, who better to kick this off with than Amanda Gorman, right? I mean, what's there to say about this poet that hasn't already been said? You know, when she was 22, she was the youngest poet ever to appear at the national inauguration. Do you remember when she in that wonderful canary yellow coat captivated?
Just
Go ahead.
Rumor I heard that Oprah Winfrey called Amanda to say, you know what, for the inauguration, I have a designer for you. And Amanda said, I'm good. What sang-froid at 22. Not that we should comment on outfits, but it was quite killer. Back to you. Sorry,
I just want to say we knew each other around the age of 22. We were wearing black t-shirts and acid wash jeans. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, but she captivated the nation with her reading of The Hill We Climbed during President Joe Biden's swearing in at the US Capitol. And man, she has just become such a literary star. One so bright she could make football fans listen to poetry at the Super Bowl. I mean, that's no small feat. And now she's a certifiable celebrity with a contract, with a cosmetic contract for Estee Lauder. But before that, her talents were nurtured right here in her hometown of Los Angeles through the amazing literary nonprofit Right Girl, founded by the wonderful Karen Taylor.
Right, you and I have both volunteered for that organization. It's just really, really terrific. And Amanda Gorman came right up out of that.
Yeah, and when she was still just 14, she was the first ever youth poet laureate of Los Angeles. So anyway, but with all this attention, it's easy to forget that it was just in December that she published her first full-length collection of poems, which is the one that we're talking about, Call Us What We Carry. The critics said that it was, quote, imbued with the grief of the pandemic and the upheaval of recent years, but nonetheless struck a hopeful chord. And I just have to read a couple lines from her poem. Shall this leave us bitter or better, she wrote. Grieve, then choose.
Astonishing. So that's first on our list today. I have to say a personal favorite of mine is Claire Bay Watkins' I Love You, But I've Chosen Darkness. So not just because I think I have written some of this genre in the past, I'm a fan of what critics are now calling autofiction. So autofiction is a genre where a writer uses his or their own life and obsessions and crafts it into actual fiction. So this novel racked up Best Books of the Year, Washington Post, Vogue, Entertainment Weekly, NPR, Esquire. So in this case, just like the writer, the book's protagonist is named Claire Bay Watkins, and just like the author, she's a UC Irvine professor in creative writing and a writer. So in the novel, to give you a glimpse of the story, Claire leaves behind her husband and baby daughter and hops onto a flight to Reno for a speaking engagement, armed only with a breast pump and crippling postpartum depression.
Sounds like your kind of gal.
What could go wrong? Well, a surreal desert adventure follows, and what goes right is like a fantastically readable book, beautiful, provocative, and just an astonishing read. So, and readers should know that the local desert landscape is very much a part of this book, and is echoed because Claire, herself is a native of the Mojave Desert. So you see in California, sometimes our native literary terroir is the desert. Did I say that right? Terroir, it's French.
Terroir, you did.
Terroir. So you get the big bucks. Okay. You say it better than
me. Big bucks. Don't tell my boss. Yes. So next up is the author Danny Trejo, who wrote Trejo: My Life of Crime and Redemption and Hollywood.
Okay. So when you say Hollywood, this is a celebrity memoir. Okay.
It is.
Genre which you, in fact, Samantha, I believe have participated in writing some celebrity memoirs.
I have, in fact, worked as a ghostwriter for some celebrities, yes.
Can you name names? Can you give us some dirt?
I cannot, because you are sworn to secrecy with a non-disclosure agreement, but, let me tell you.
Okay, well, come on, you have to give us something. This is Bookish. You can't get away that easily. Tell us, what is the experience of writing a celebrity memoir? I mean, what are those?
Well, okay. To be honest, like writing a celebrity memoir is like carving the pharaoh's tomb in Egypt. What I mean by that is like 3,000 years ago. By the way, guys, I teach memoir at Chapman University, so I talk about this a lot. So 3,000 years ago, right, the pharaohs are putting their life story on the tomb walls to basically convince the gods to let them into the good afterlife. And it's full of braggadocio, it's self-promoting, and really, honestly, that's a lot of what celebrity memoirs are filled with. Lots of platitudes, and they want to maintain their image, but
and vegan taco recipes.
Vegan taco recipes.
Those Egyptian chips.
Not this book. This book really resonates with a deep authenticity,
if you don't remember who Danny Trejo is, just if you look at this photo, immediately he's the face everyone knows. Oh my goodness. And and in the chat, if you remember where you've seen him, I mean, he's been on, Breaking Bad, Desperado, Con Air. He's like everywhere. So when you look at him, he's kind of scary.
Yeah, he's the bartender in Ron Burgundy. But anyway, but okay, so it's really not surprising when you look. Machete, yes, thank you. I see that in the chat. Yes,
and I love Yana read that you love the Mojave Desert. Thank you. Continue.
So just look at the guy. It's really not a surprise that he had a pretty rough life. He began his adulthood as a drug addict, prison inmate in no less than San Quentin, right?
Oh my goodness.
But by his, mid-20s, early 20s, I forget. It's been a while since I actually read it. I think it's his mid-20s. He becomes sober, and more than that, an unlikely Hollywood star. And I tell you, in this brutal year, this story of his redemption and how he did it offered a genuine, heartfelt, and hopeful story of redemption. Let me read from my notes. The Kirkus Reviews called it a, quote, raw and deeply engrossing salvation story. And no less than a New York Times book review noted, it's enough to make you believe in the possibility of a Hollywood ending. So anyway, that's pretty good. He told our Peter Larson when we interviewed him earlier in the year, I think this book is for anyone that wants to read it, but my audience is also people like me, guys that are lost and don't even know why, guys that are so angry they don't understand why no one wants to get near them. But I think anyone can relate to this. I think it gives people courage to get their secrets out and move forward. Pretty awesome.
That's surprisingly inspirational. And Jerry Drake says Stargate Atlantis. So,
keep them coming.
What's exciting at this point on is that we get to actually hear from our 7 remaining authors and hear them speak directly.
So I didn't do a good Danny Trejo? Is that what you're saying?
I could have you read for all the authors, and you don't have enough, not like facial tattoo like features. So I'm sorry. Don't call us. We'll call you, Samantha. All right.
All right.
So first up, we have Miriam Chelsea. What a perfect example of a Southern California noteworthy author. So based in Southern California, Chelsea's novel, What Storm, What Thunder, was named a best fall book by so many, AARP, Time, Vulture, BuzzFeed, Chicago Trib, Washington Post, so many. It's a deeply evocative story inspired by the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, and it's told from multiple viewpoints. Very interesting book. So here we're going to watch Miriam read directly in the voice of one of her key characters.
I could be useful doing triage in the camps, coordinating who could go back to buildings, either green or yellow tagged, indicating after survey by the newly trained local engineers who would sweep through Port-au-Prince neighborhood by neighborhood, the buildings that had had no structural damage and could be immediately reoccupied, and those that needed some work but had sections that could be inhabited. A green tag signaled that a structure had been inspected and deemed safe. A yellow tag signaled restricted entry and restricted occupation. A red tag building meant that it was unsafe and should not be inhabited at all. Some structures would have to be torn down entirely. If a whole neighborhood or most of one had been green or yellow tagged and I could find a cluster of people from it, the task was usually easy. But if I was signaling that one or two houses on a block had been deemed safe enough, it was usually harder to find their owners. Everyone wanted to go home. Everyone wanted a home. Hey, my name is Miriam Chelsea, and I'm the author of What Storm, What Thunder. And I was just giving you a taste of the novel of one of the narrative voices, a character named Anne, who's a Haitian architect and returns to Haiti to assess some of the damage to the buildings. And she happens to be using the California Protocol, which is what really happened after the earthquake. Now that I make my home in beautiful California, I'm indebted to the Southern California News Group for selecting myself and my novel as one of the noteworthy authors from 2021 from this area. I hope you'll read What Storm, What Thunder, and I thank the Southern California News Group for this honor.
Awesome.
That's the connection. Haiti, California, earthquakes. Fascinating.
Well, an equally fascinating, but geographically much different journey is Maggie Shipstead's 600-page epic globe-trotting novel, Great Circle. It was called Relentlessly Exciting by the Washington Post and racked up many accolades. So when the novel was published, Maggie told SCNG that she'd been traveling in New Zealand, and while she was in the Auckland airport, have you been in the Auckland airport, by the way?
No.
I've been in the Auckland airport.
Okay.
Anyhow, what she did notice, and I didn't notice, was the statue of the pilot Jean Batten. And Jean Batten was the first person to fly solo from London to New Zealand. And Maggie said, the plaque had a quote, "I was destined to be a wanderer. I modified it to become the first line of the book. I was born to be a wanderer. Looking at the statue, I thought, oh, I should write a book about an aviatrix."
And just like that, it was done, right?
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe we should listen to Maggie describe her own writerly journey. Can you roll the tape, please?
Hey everyone, I'm Maggie Shipstead, author of Great Circle, and I'm just really excited that Great Circle has been chosen as a noteworthy book of 2021, especially because I'm a Southern California native, and I'm always extra excited to reach readers from where I'm from. So I really hope you enjoy it. Great Circle is the story of Marion Graves, a pilot who disappears while trying to fly around the world north-south in 1950, and also the story of Hadley Baxter, who's a modern movie star playing Marion in a movie about her life and who gets sucked into the question of what really happened to her. I hope you enjoyed this book. It was about 6.5 years from when I started it to when it was published, so I put a lot into it. And I hope you also enjoy the other books chosen for Noteworthy, and have a great year. Bye.
6.5 years and 8 months for publication. I'm trying to do the math. So Maggie must have started Great Circle around 2013. So all of you aspiring writers out there, if we all start writing our books right now, Samantha, what?
You could be an SCNG noteworthy book by 2029?
2029. I'll be 90 by then, but that's never too old either.
Who's counting? Who's counting?
Okay, never too old. I just want to mention in the chat that, first of all, I think Peter Larson has joined us today, so our star power is growing and growing. And I love the comment that Melanie Johnson made at 5:22 p.m. where she was talking about Ms. Chauncey's book. Great title, makes me want to check out that book. And I think the titles, that's such a great point that our authors our readers are making about a title can really stimulate your imagination and get your wheels turning. And that is certainly the case for our next book. Now, before I bring it up, I want to say our next noteworthy author, Naomi Hirohara, is a Pasadena resident, as I am, and is Eric Peterson in the chat, if not in his pajamas. Still haven't found out what he's wearing today. Actually, I think it's a gardening friendly outfit. So I give you that shout out, Samantha, about Pasadena, because I guess I'm giving it away. Do you know which city in the United States has been named best city for book lovers?
Okay, I'm sensing what it might be, but I'll I'm going to play along here. New York?
No. Your video is frozen.
Hello, are you there?
Hello, yes, you
Ground
are.
control to Major Tom?
Exactly. And Melanie says Romans and Pasadena is her happy place. Okay, it's not New York, San Francisco, Boston, anywhere. I love these guesses. Nashville? Well, okay, we can debate more on that in the chat. Okay, the best city in the United States for book lovers is Pasadena. Okay, it is true that this is based on numbers of books for sale and book swaps, and the ranking is from a lawn care blog called Lawn Love. But still.
What I missed, sorry, I missed it, but what was the answer? Was the answer?
It's Pasadena based on book swaps and books for sale. I see Naomi is on there and she's giving a thumbs up, and we're very honored to have
I thought
her
it was going to be Poughkeepsie, but
Yeah,
no, okay.
and that's not to take away anything from the 10 other great papers of the SCNG that are not in Pasadena or their audiences, but it shows the readerly richness of Southern California. Indeed, viewers, if you have a favorite newspaper from the Southern California News Group, subscribers, and you think your town is the best one for book lovers or very good, put it in the chat and get the conversation going. Otherwise, we will take it away. Naomi and me and Eric, who are on this. Okay, so you.
Hi, this is Naomi.
Will you set up the book, Samantha, about what this book was? That she was already.
Oh, yes. Hold on. Sorry, my technical difficulties have made life difficult. But okay. So it takes place in 1944. During World War II, and is inspired by the Japanese internment at Manzanar. And we've got a young heroine with all of these twists and turns. This is a real, nail biter, people. And this young protagonist is investigating what happened at the death, in the death involving her sister. So.
Yeah. And I think that in a year where Asian American hate crimes were in the news, it has like a certain particular resonance this particular year, which is so interesting when a historical novel will do that. But I have to say, for readers of any background whatsoever, because it's such an extraordinarily written book, it will resonate regardless. So
absolutely
it's fantastic. So let's hear Naomi talk about the book right now.
Hi, this is Naomi Hirohara, and I wanted to thank the Southern California News Group for this recognition of Clark and Division. I wrote most of this historic novel during the pandemic and certainly rewrote it. So just to receive these accolades have been a total surprise. So for those writers out there, whether you're in the beginning, middle, or maybe even tail end of your career, just want to encourage you to hang in there and just focus on the story more than even marketing or the business of writing. So hopefully your book can sustain the test of time. So thank you.
I love how inspiring and generous so many authors are, talking person to person. And notice that she spent the pandemic not just writing, but rewriting.
Yeah.
And I have to give a shout out to Elizabeth Castillo, who says, Pasadena love, thank you. Historical fiction is awesome. Thank you. And then Joanne is just noting Claremont, California is also pretty good for books. The bookstore series closed. I bet Dave Allen could pick one out there. Okay, and there's Romans. Okay, back to you.
Back to me. Now we're going to another part of our region, which is Los Angeles, with Matthew Spector, who is in every sense a Los Angeles writer. His mom was a screenwriter. He grew up in Hollywood, very much the belly of the beast. His fascinating book initially evokes F. Scott Fitzgerald and Fitzgerald's addictions and writing, and his failure. Failure plays a big part in this amazing work, which is which is an interesting combination of a lot of things. Always Crashing. It's that title, Always Crashing in the Same Car, by the way, is taken from a David Bowie song. This is an intriguing book. Earlier we talked about Claire Bay Watkins' novel, I Love You, But I've Chosen Darkness. And in the same way, her personal experiences were woven into fiction. Matthew's book is personal experience woven into history and literary criticism, if you will. And unbelievably, it works really well.
Yeah, so well. And I just want to go, because you're watching such a great book show. Oh, who's on? Dan Smetanka, executive editor of Counterpoint Press, says, "Yay, Los Angeles. Thank you, sir." And coming from the Bay Area, we would take that with an extra, thanks a lot. Yeah, we love you very much. And we love Counterpoint. And I have to say, though, as we meet Matthew right now, that meeting a person can be so interesting, because to me, frankly, Samantha, on paper, Matthew Spector is like the critic's critic. He's a really smart guy writing these amazing cultural think pieces in the Paris Review and the Los Angeles Review of Books, of which he's a founding member.
Yay, Los Angeles Review of Books. It's another of the Southern California literary touchstones. So
Yeah,
yay.
Right next to
I can never do that heart right.
No,
Anyway,
this scary background that I have. But so the point is, you might think that Spector is a really dry academic, possibly, but he really isn't. I just, watching him talk, I just see him illuminated by so much of the emotion that no doubt he feels, because it's surprisingly in his work, illuminated from within. So let's see if you see what I'm seeing when we meet Matthew.
Hi, I'm Matthew Spector, and I have to say I'm completely delighted and surprised to be chosen as a notable book of 2021. Writing any book is a really solitary process, and this one was a little more solitary than most. I felt like I was really sinking into certain obsessions with old movies and old books and music that I wasn't sure anybody else was going to get excited about. So I am really amazed and delighted that this book is connected with readers in the way that it has. But it's also kind of a reminder for me that so much of our cultural lives these days seem to revolve around a sense of urgency that isn't entirely real. We're always getting this sense of like, oh, these are the 12 books you need to read this summer, or these are the big, most anticipated books of the fall. And I don't think that art works that way. And I don't think our reading lives work that way. There's not an expiration date on these things. And our encounters with books and with all kinds of art is differently rewarding at different times. So I really wrote this book in a lot of ways to shine a little light on some artists that I thought might be forgotten or half forgotten, and also to shine a little light on experiences of privacy and of being able to encounter our private selves and our private enthusiasms and our private passions in ways that aren't tied to an algorithm. I think every day, we experience things that erode our privacy, and so reading and writing is one of the ways that we can restore some of that. So it's my hope in reading this book and in reading the other wonderful books that have been chosen for this particular program, you can experience that pleasure too. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Before we go on, Samantha, I just want to note, and I just kind of want him to be my couples therapist. I don't know why. I just want to note
the voice.
Push list committee. I got to see in the chat. The chat is blowing up, and in the lead right now is Long Beach for book lovers.
Long Beach in the house.
Liv Hogland says Long Beach ain't bad either. Check out the independent bookstore Gatsby and their resident cat. Must have resident cat and the new main library. Marcia Harris notes that Long Beach has over 50 book clubs. Hey, Pasadena's feeling very anxious now. 50 and loads of street book boxes for people to get some books. And then David Guller also said that Naomi's book was a great read. Yes, it's on the west, but you have to read the chat because I'm taking up time with the chat.
I can't read the chat.
There's so much Long Beach stuff, and now Dan is loving Long Beach and Gatsby's, and it's kind of like, oh my God, okay, forget it. You go
Long
on.
Beach. We have only a few authors left, so let's get to it. The next one is Anthony Visna, who is not from Southern California, although he taught here. But we just couldn't ignore this book, After Parties. Okay, but let me set this up. Do you remember way back in 1980 with the novel Confederacy of Dunces that just took publishing by storm? Do you remember?
It was on every college dorm room bookshelf. Half my boyfriends gave me that book as though it would be, so
yeah,
it was.
Yeah. It was my husband, when I first started dating him, he had your book. He had A Death Takes a Holiday and A Confederacy of Dunces on his nightstand. So I blame you and that book for my marriage.
Anyway, the speak of Ignatius as
yes.
pandemic, but go ahead, sorry.
So anyway, so that book, Confederacy of Dunces, actually won the Pulitzer for fiction that year, but sadly the author, John Kennedy Toole, didn't live to see his book in print, let alone the success. And echoes of that tragic kind of scenario can be felt here with this short story collection, After Parties. It's about Cambodian Americans in the Central Valley. And the collection, oh my gosh, Sandra, it charmed critics and it earned a spot on best book lists from the New York Times to Time Magazine, Harper's Bazaar, New York and Chicago libraries, National Public Radio. I mean, I could go on and on. The Washington Post said it is hard not to label so a voice of his generation. But get this, it was published 8 months after So died of an accidental drug overdose. Very sad. His sister, Samantha, spoke to SCNG in August when the book came out. And she noted that, I love this quote from her, the legacy of Cambodian genocide infiltrated not only her brother's work, but also his consciousness. She said, it makes you realize that actually what your parents went through, the trauma they went through, it translates in different ways into you. Generational trauma is very real. Anyway, let's hear from Samantha herself.
My name is Samantha So Lamb, and I'm Anthony Visna So's sister. On behalf of Anthony and our family, I would like to thank the Southern California News Group for recognizing Anthony's hard work in his book, After Parties. We are extremely proud of what my brother has accomplished for himself, for our family, and for the Cambodian American community. Anthony, we miss you every single day. Your legacy lives on through your writing, your work, your nephews, and our beloved memory of you. Thank you.
I love that.
Biographically, it's such a sad and tragic story, but that does not mean one should go out and get the book just as an homage, or simply out of sorrow, because it is so funny and reverent and sparkles, and it's California.
It's so California. The first story opens in a Cambodian-run donut shop in the Central Valley, and this young girl is a protagonist with her brother and her mom, and this weird guy walks in and orders an apple fritter, and the story takes fascinating, interesting turns. But more than that, you really feel like you're there with the characters, right? You really feel like you're in that donut shop, and they're just so vivid. That story and all of the stories really live with you for the end.
And will stand the test of time and will never age.
Yeah. We'll never age, unlike us. Anyhow.
Okay, and back in the chat, Riverside Best Bookstore Seller Books is back. Karen Wing, and that's Judith Wood. Thank you for that. Karen Wingard in Pasadena. Many branch libraries, as well as the beautiful Central Library, our gorgeous library. Closed for a seismic retrofit. Don't forget Litfest. And of course, John Halligan. Boy, that Long Beach must have sent these people a lot of checks, because they're talking about Tracy's Barn restaurant next door to Gatsby's. Fine. All right. We now come to our penultimate author, and the last one before the end, I believe, and that is Natasha Deyoung. Her novel, The Perishing, was a critical sensation. Her historical drama, part meditation on race and injustice, speculative fiction even. This Los Angeles-centered novel bends and warps time, and somehow magically it is not confusing. It is a fantastic page turner. How she does it, I do not know. But Deyoung herself is no less than a phenomenon. She's a force. Aside from being this award-winning writer, she's attorney and activist, and apparently, actually, a former student of yours, Samantha.
Oh, well, okay. Let's for 5 seconds, or actually more like for a couple hours. I used to be involved in Penn Center's Emerging Voices program, and she was a fellow. She years ago, more than a decade ago, she started as a Penn fellow. But even then, right, she hadn't really written anything, certainly not published. And she was just luminous and smart as a whip, and just a good person. You know what I mean? Her soul is she's a mom. She started Dirty Laundry Lint, a reading series for the Los Angeles writing community. As you mentioned, she's an activist. I mean, she just gives so much. I don't know how she does it all. I love this woman, and I kind of hate her because I don't know how she does it all. Anyway.
So let's see. Let's meet her.
Let's meet her.
Hello. I'm Natasha Deyoung, and I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much, Southern California News Group. Thank you to this amazing audience for recognizing my novel, The Perishing, as a noteworthy book of the year. When I first started writing The Perishing, I'll be honest, I was terrified of it. And terrified for a writer means afraid to write what needs to be said or what you feel that you're called to say. And I was terrified. It incorporated my life as an attorney, as a mother, as a wife, as a law professor, creative writing professor. Just all my worlds seemed to collide to create this book, and it terrified me. So I worked with a lot of editors who were like, no, don't say this, or say this, don't say this. And finally I went to my mentor and I said, you know, I think I'm gonna make these changes. I think it just needs to be a book that people could read and just enjoy, you know, like the books that have been told before. And he said to me, he says, Natasha, if you're gonna fail on your own words, not on someone else's. So I give you that piece of advice, because whatever you're doing, do it in a way that only you can do it. Be a gift that you're called to be to this world, because you are. And that's what The Perishing represented to me. And that I'm not failing on my words, but succeeding in this way is everything to me. It's just confirmation, or at least a nod saying, keep going, girl. So I'm just so happy to be here. I'm thankful for this nod, for this opportunity, because I feel it and I appreciate it, and it means more to me than you could possibly know. So thanks again. Have a great day from me and The Perishing to you wherever you are. Take care.
Don't you love her?
And like powerfully vulnerable. It's like, you know, we're talking about her successes and she's talking about failure. I mean, and that's sort of just a hint of the emotion and the power that you see in this book. It's so surprising, so compelling, strong, fierce, sad, scary, beautiful, amazing.
She's the real deal, and so is that book. Love her, love the book. But sadly, we're almost at the end. We've got our last noteworthy author coming up here, but certainly not least. It is our own Viet Thanh Nguyen. Call him rather agent provocateur. And no, I'm not talking about the nameless narrator of his Pulitzer Prize winning novel, The Sympathizer, about the double agent who then resurfaces in the book we're talking about today, The Committed. The provocateur is Viet himself, because his writing is designed to provoke, right? When the Sympathizer I'm reading from my notes here. While the Sympathizer skewered US and Vietnam hypocrisy equally for brutality and during the Vietnam conflict, The Committed, the new book, part crime thriller, part black comedy, part erudite polemic, because after all, Viet is a public intellectual in the United States. This book trains its brilliant and unforgiving eye on the other colonial power, the French. And let me tell you, here's what he told us when we talked to him about the book. He said, and you know, in The Sympathizer, I set out to offend everybody, by which I mean the Americans and Vietnamese on all sides. But the French got off easy. So I thought, time to write a sequel to offend the French. And that's partly what I set out to do with The Committed. Anyway, but it's, you know, he might have set out to offend, but readers and critics loved this novel. It made dozens of best of lists across the country, including Time Magazine, Amazon, LitHub, and even overseas. Oh my gosh, did I tell you, Sandra, I was in Paris and I was in Paris in November, and when I pick up a copy of the magazine Paris Match in Charles de Gaulle Airport just to practice my French, and I go to the book section, and who's there? Viet Thanh Nguyen, The Committed.
Oh yes, he's really quite something and fantastic. And I just, before we turn to his tape, which we're just about to, and I just want to note that, you know, there's such great readers and subscribers, and Molly Lovegood has said just before, as we're ending, that she so appreciates the premium magazine and the Bookish booklet, and it's great to follow along with our commentary, author interviews, and she says featuring local authors is important to me. And I think that's kind of been the thing of this whole Noteworthy. Southern California authors they're here and it makes us proud, and their stories are amazing. So thank you, Molly, for that. And Dara,
Thank you, Molly.
great event.
Yeah.
But now let's hear our last statement of the evening from an author. Buckle your seatbelts. Here comes the Errol Arnold Chair of English and Professor of English and American Studies and Ethnicity at USC. Here comes the esteemed professor. Imagine if he were your teacher.
Hey there, everybody. It's come to my attention that the Southern California News Group has picked The Committed as one of its noteworthy books of 2021. Needless to say, I'm thrilled. It's great to know that books are still being read and in greater numbers, and it's even better to know that the Southern California News Group foregrounds books. It's not always the case. Now, I could say to you out there that we should be reading books because books are good for us. They breed empathy and compassion. They breed a sense of affinity and feeling for others. But all that is true. What I really want you to know is that you should read because it's fun. Books are bad for you. That's the lesson you should be taking away from The Committed and from everything else that's coming across your way from the Southern California News Group. The Committed is a novel set in Paris, bad for you, and it features a lot of sex, drugs, violence, gang shootouts, and orgy, and lots of jokes, clean ones and dirty ones. So talking about reading, how many things out there that you can do every day that are both good and bad for you? I'm going to leave that to your imagination. Meanwhile, go back to the Southern California News Group list of noteworthy books for 2021. Make sure you read all of them.
Books are bad for you. You heard it here today on this special episode of Bookish on our 10 noteworthy authors of 2021. Speaking of Bookish, we will see you back here in 2 weeks. Friday, February 18th, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Our guest will be Chris Jones, author of The Eye Test, A Case for Human Creativity in the Age of Analytics, maybe echoing a little bit of what Matthew said. Danny Rubin, the writer of everyone's favorite February movie, Groundhog Day, and popular Ask Polly columnist Heather Havrilesky. Heather's new book is Foreverland on the divine tedium of marriage. Marriage, which in the pandemic is kind of like its own kind of Groundhog Day. Thanks, Samantha.
Well, thank you, Sandra, and thank you, Eric. Pants or no pants, and we didn't mention Julie Corlett behind the scenes. She's the Oz behind the curtain. Thank you, everyone, for attending and for launching our first noteworthy selection of authors. Hopefully, we'll be back next year and do it all over again. Join us next time. We're going to be back February 18th, as Sandra said. And meanwhile, you can pick up books by our noteworthy authors at Once Upon a Time bookstore. Go to shoponceUponAtime.com and enjoy. We'll see you next time. Oh, one more thing. Don't forget to sign up for SCNG's book pages, edited by our very own Eric Peterson. Go to the book pages newsletter, click on subscribe, enjoy. We'll be there every week. Bye-bye, guys. See you next time.